categories component is there and categories module is there. This categories module is used to register the categories module into app module, exports into app module to the main module. Observe carefully here. When I click on categories routing module, by default, a routing is defined for this module. And it is same. It is importing categories component. By default, it is using categories component. That means if nothing is requested, then by default, it will get the categories component. You can add multiple paths here. Categories search, categories list, categories add, categories manipulate. Like that, categories related several interactions you can add as components here. You can add as components here. And you can create a UI for only categories interface. And their path is defined here. And observe carefully. Now you can see that this router module is using not for root, it is using for child, We have two options in router module, for root and for child. This is for only for this child module. And categories module.ts, you can see this categories module is importing categories routing module. It is importing categories component. And what it is doing, it has its own declarations. It has its own imports. But important is this categories module is just like your app module, but this is only related to this categories. It has its own modules, it has its own components, it has its own library. That means for large scale projects, in every module, you have its own interface, every domain like, right? You create a module, in every module, lot of manipulations will be there. Lot of manipulations and interactions will be there. And everything is ready here. You know how to handle the modules individually now. That means how to declare, how to import, how to configure, everything you know here. So just you need to know that now we are maintaining an individual environment for every module. Okay, you can add any number of components here. It can have its own routing. And for that, we need to use for child routes, that is categories. Similarly, you can add other modules. So here I am adding another module. So ng generate module. And this time I am defining as so vendors, categories and vendors. Vendors is another module. And in this vendors module, so we need to add a route. Okay. And for vendors, we need to generate a separate module. Then we will create a module. So vendors, okay. For vendors, we are generating a separate module and we need to register this with app module. That means app.module. That is how we are configuring. We are generating a module and we are defining the module. And we are generating a module for vendors and with an individual route, we are creating a module for vendors and registering with the app module. Okay, this is also ready. So we have customers, we have vendors, and we can just create the modules here now. That means with individual route, this is how we need to design. And this is how we need to design. This time another option is some customers. And here the module is customers like this. You can add any number of modules in this way. So that means I'm configuring another option. So that is the module is products. So products and I'm defining here products. Okay. And this is also ready. Products module is also ready. So you can see for every module, it will generate the route. For every module, it will generate the route. It is configuring the route for every module. And observe carefully here, we have an app routing module. In the app routing module, you can see that the routes are added. In the app routing module, you can see the routes are added. And I will make it clean this time. And you can see this time, this is added for your module. I will keep in the next line. Okay. And I will keep this in the next line. Products is another module. Path. Okay. And you can see that this is the new module. This is the new routing with the lazy loading. This is the new routing with lazy loading. That means now in our app module, you can see in the app module, it generates a route. This is the main route here. And in this, you can see categories. Okay. It should load a child route. Okay. So which one it has to load? It is using an import function. It is a Lambda expression, import function. It is importing this particular module and then loading that module. That means first it has to import the module, then it should load the module. So it is importing the module, then it is loading that module. Every module should be done in the same way. If I directly give children, then what will happen is it will directly load it. But I need to load and import only when it is required. Only when it is required. So that is the reason. Here we need to handle this situation. So this creates a lazy routes for you. That means you are loading the children and it is importing only when it is requested and it is using that module. And remember, this is the main paths we are having: categories, vendors, and products. So let's go to that categories. In the categories, it has its own route as I showed you. Categories component HTML. Here I will define a heading. So product, this is categories. And here I'm just defining a list, ordered list, just roughly. So ordered list, list item. And here I'm configuring options like electronics. Yeah. So like footwear. So like we have fashion, like these are categories. And similarly, so we have the vendors. In that vendors, so we are adding vendors HTML, we are adding here vendors. So here I'm defining here, so Samsung. So here I said LG, right? And here I say some options like Tata, something like this. Now here I'm adding these products, different products. Yeah, so I'm just adding one more list here. This is for products. So we can add some information there. And here we said some Samsung TV. So here I defined some LG mobile. So here some Voltas AC, something like this, right? These are all the options defined here. Now important, we have categories, we have products, we have vendors, they have their own routing. And finally, all the route is configured into the app routing module, and it is configured with the lazy routes. And usually when you added these routes, so here every module comprises of following files. So what are the files present in every module? So just example is, so in this categories, you can see it is having One is customers